The Miami Dolphins enter the 2025 offseason looking to keep on improving and potentially adding on some more offensive line and weapons help for their team that started to pick up some good rhythm in the second half of the season, but unfortunately, due to a slow start and to his injury, they missed the 2024 playoffs. My name is Tyler, here with my brother Ryan, and we're going to break down what you can expect from a Miami Dolphins 2025 offseason. But before we get into that, if you like the content that Ryan and I put out and you want to help the Tracy Take channel grow, the easiest way is to subscribe to the Tracy Take, tackle that bell to get notified when videos come out. And while you're at it, leave a like and a comment. Let us know what you would like to see the Dolphins do this offseason. And Ryan, that being said, it's kind of unfortunate for Miami fans and the Dolphins as well, just because like Tua, looking at it right now, he ended up having a winning record. I know records for QBs isn't always like the most end all be all, but if you go look at his season, he went 6-5 for 11 games,
Yeah.
2,867 yards, 19 touchdowns. If he would have played a full season, I feel like they would have figured it out because they definitely started off slow and they were dealing with the injury bug overall. But in the beginning of the season, but his injury didn't help at all. Skylar Thompson, Tyler Huntley did their best, but it was just a little too late with the very polarizing AFC rankings. You're hot or you're not, and the Dolphins were
Yeah.
kind of one of the few teams that hung in there until the very end. So let's pull up these slides here for the Miami Dolphins and their overall rankings. Offensively, it's kind of tough to tell. Just because I said like Tua missed those 5 games. I do believe that their rushing stats. I feel like they're a better rushing team than 21st overall. I think with Devon Achane, I think has the potential to be one of the best running backs in the league with his speed. I think it's going to be one of the areas that they're going to continue to keep on improving is that offensive line. And I think when they do that, I could see him just absolutely take off. Defensively, though, they were very stout. I think on the defensive line, a lot of that too,
Mhm.
as I think, thanks to Calais Campbell. The dude is just an absolute monster. It's amazing that he makes these professional athletes look like high school players, just physical size wise. This is how
Yeah.
big he is. So I think that's why like the rushing numbers are so low, passing numbers as well are low. I mean, when you got Jaylen Ramsey and then Javon Holland in your secondary, that's pretty good as well.
Oh,
But
yeah.
they had some serious injuries that like Bradley Chubb, I don't believe played at all this season. I think Jalen Phillips came back, but he ended up getting hurt as well. So Chop Robinson was like a good rookie season, so something to improve on. But I want to throw it over to you. What was, especially as a Patriots fan, what was your overall thoughts on this Dolphins team overall in 2024?
When Tua was in, they were a competitive football team, and when Tua was not, they were a bottom of the league type of team. I mean, the Patriots in week 3 or week 4 were a half inch away from Jalen Polk getting his foot down with 30 seconds left and winning that game. Like that's to me like how close that game was when Tua wasn't in. And granted, like Devon Achane got a concussion at the beginning of that game as well, but without Tua, this offense really struggles. And I know people kind of give him a lot of flack for being uh, uh, not an elite quarterback, but I think he is an elite. I'll use air quotes elite. An elite quarterback just in his own right. He throws with great timing and anticipation, and when he's out there, this offense can really click just because he's able to put the ball uh, right in front of Jaylen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. This Malik Washington kid from USC looked good in spurts this season. So, like when he's out there, this offense is able to click. Defensively, I was actually fairly surprised with how well that they were able to play. Considering their 2 top pass rushers were out for the large majority of the year. Chop Robinson looked decent at times. And so all in all, like they have some good pieces. They just underperformed just due to injury. And I think uh, the Dolphins have usually faded in the second half of seasons just because the team gets worn down. They struggled to play in colder weather. And this year they didn't necessarily struggle to play in colder weather. They just didn't have the talent healthy enough to compete late in the season. And so that was kind of their downfall at this point, right? In this season. So all in all, they're a good team that just seems to keep drawing the unlucky card in terms of injuries or schedule or playoff matchups or whatever it is. But I'm curious. Mike McDaniel has uh, come under some fire as of late. That the Dolphins could potentially move on from him if he doesn't start producing playoff wins. And I don't know. Like they're in that limbo state where they're not true Super Bowl contenders. They're not like one of the worst teams in the league, and so sometimes that could be a really hard place to be.
Well, and also too, just in Mike McDaniel's defense, it's like the AFC is loaded. I mean, like on his side of the bracket, he's going to have Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. I know Justin Herbert's getting a lot of heat just with his performance, but still, like I think that Chargers team could take
Yeah.
off as well. Now it looks like you have Bo Nix in there, and I'm sure I'm missing some guys. Uh, uh, um, uh, trying to think if there's anybody else that I'm missing.
Well,
CJ Stroud also with the Texans too. So they are
yeah,
just it's loaded with talent. And I do think one thing, I mean, he does have like Tyreek Hill on that team as well, a Hall of Famer. Got Jaylen Ramsey on that team, who I believe is going to be a Hall of Famer. So there are Calais Campbell is on the team this year, and he's a for sure Hall of Famer. So I can see the frustration. That's just the league that we're in, where it's like we want to win championships now. And I will say this, and I think Tua is doing the absolute best he can. I think he's maximized his talent overall. But I do
agreed.
think he fits the system really well with how much speed they have, like with Tyreek Hill, with Jaylen Waddle, and like with all the timing throws and hitting the windows and seeing the like just what's it called? His vision on the field and seeing the window, like and where to put the ball based off where Tyreek Hill or Waddle are going to be, is well above average, and I think he does it perfectly. But I also think too, he's only going to take this team so far, and so that's what I'm going to be curious. I know they paid him a big contract, so like they're sticking with him, but
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to be curious about. Like I just don't. I feel like Tua is just going to be a wild card, maybe divisional round quarterback. I don't think he can
yeah.
go and beat Jackson, Allen, Burrow, Mahomes, when it comes time to play January.
I could, and this like I Dolphins fans are gonna hate that I say this, but like I realistically could see them being a Super Bowl contending team if they can somehow find a way to get home field advantage. But for them to do that, they'd have to have a really favorable schedule through November and December where they're not playing like they're playing in dome teams or things like or having a majority of home games in that time, just because that is the time of year where they really start to fall off and struggle. And cold weather games, I know it's kind of become this narrative around this team, but they have not won in cold weather. And with the Jets, the Patriots, and the Bills, like more often than not, you're going to have an away game, at least one away game in that time of year. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what the Dolphins do going forward. Obviously, Mike McDaniel's is in Tua are going to be there next year. I'm not saying that like they should do that. It's just there's been some speculation about Mike McDaniel's and if he can get the Dolphins over the hump. But let's move on now to free agents. So a few key free agents here. The biggest one is going to be Javon Holland for them, Calais Campbell as well. But Javon Holland is a young star for them, getting his second contract. And I'm very curious to see what happens here. The Dolphins have a decent bit of cap space, like they could re-sign him. The question is just will they tag him and not let him hit the open market, or will they let him hit the open market and then be competing with other teams? So I think that will be really interesting there as well. Calais Campbell's 38. He will most likely be moving on from the team. He could stay, but I feel like at this point he's going to be ring chasing, and I just don't know if the Dolphins are quite in
Yeah.
that spot there as well. But other than that, like backup quarterback Tyler Huntley, they have some rotational offensive linemen kind of in there. It's hard to pin down who's the starter there because they have had carousels of offensive linemen at most of the positions. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see what they end up doing this offseason with all these free agents.
Well, and that's what's going to be interesting too. Is like I think the offensive line is probably going to be the biggest need for this team, but they're currently sitting under or over the cap. According to over the cap, they're sitting at about 12 million as well. So they're going to have to finagle some cap space to get one under the cap, but also the two to go and
Yeah.
sign some quality offensive linemen. And so that's what I think is going to be very interesting. A lot of these guys are not going to be back, or if they are, they're veteran minimum type guys, and that's what they were going to be anyways. Because this team, I feel, is so star heavy, and like they're successful. When they lean on their stars, like when Tua's healthy, he can connect with Tyreek Hill, Jaylen Waddle. I'm very curious about Malik Washington and how he's going to fit into the system now, as he has the speed and kind of fits that mold of what they'd be looking for in Miami on this offense. But they also need an offensive line though to help protect Tua, give Achane the running lanes, and I think that's something that they can go and do. I think there's a good offensive lineman in this draft class. I think that they can go and attack and develop and bring onto this team. But in general, though, with the cap space, they're going to have to finagle a way to try and see how they can keep some of these key guys. So,
Yeah.
and some of the guys they maybe would want to go and get, and like Javon Holland is going to be one I think that they're going to try and re-sign. They'll find a way. And so I've got to put re-sign on there when next to Javon Holland's name, but he was a Miami Dolphin, maybe still will be. If they let him go, Justin Reed out of Kansas City could be an interesting one. And I think a guy, if they'd want to bring in to help with that offensive line, Kevin Zeitler out of Detroit, if somehow Detroit lets him walk, I think that'd be interesting. Jonathan Hankins could be a guy they could get on the defensive line to help kind of replace the Calais Campbell moving on, and just added some more depth on the defensive interior. And I think an interesting guy, maybe Levante David out of Tampa Bay, if they wanted to improve on that linebacking position. Tyrell Dodson, he's a free agent as well. He actually had the most picks for the team when it comes to the 2024 stats. So maybe they re-sign him. They want to keep him, but also get some more veteran depth, and a guy that's already living in the state of Florida. So I think that'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think there's a lot of different options that they could go in free agency. Like you said, they got to clear up that cap space issues first, or those cap space issues. But some draft targets. If Javon Holland is to leave in free agency, I think Malachi Starks would be a premier safety option for them to just go and replace him with directly there. You can get Josh Simmons, a really athletic offensive tackle as well. Donovan Jackson is a very versatile offensive lineman as a whole. He's right now playing left tackle for Ohio State. He was the left guard for them. But all in all, he's going to be a good offensive lineman in the NFL. Most people think, and Jahad Campbell, the linebacker from Alabama, he's going to be that kind of center fielder. But when you have those smaller outside linebackers and you're running more of that 3-down lineman setup, you need a bigger linebacker to come in and shoot gaps. And I think Jahad Campbell could be that guy. So all in all, there's some good options here, I think, for the Miami Dolphins. The big question, and there were some rumors kind of circulating after the season about this, but Tyreek Hill tweeting the "I'm out," and there was speculation about him already, maybe wanting to be done with Miami. So we'll have to see if he stays in Miami. The GM said that they had like a postseason meeting with him, and he did not mention wanting to be traded from Miami. But we'll just have to see how that situation arises or evolves. And Jaylen Waddle, his injury issues have started to pick up a lot as well. Last 2 seasons, he's missed, I believe, a majority of the games with injuries. So just kind of have to see how this Miami Dolphins team evolves going into 2025.
Yeah, and that's why I'm curious. I mentioned his name earlier, but like if they wanted to move on from Tyreek Hill, Malik Washington. Now, I'm not saying that he's as good as
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill or will be, but he has the exact same build. I think he could like refill that role. I don't. Nobody's as fast as Tyreek Hill. I feel, but if you're looking for like a speedster that well, same size, nearly the same size and build, like Malik Washington is that guy, and he started to pick up and kind of. Have some good performances with the end of the year. It's interesting to see how his performance is in 2025. But Dolphins have a decent bit of draft picks as well that they could go and attack. So it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing this offseason.
Yeah. So let's go ahead. Let's wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. That is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, leave a comment on what you want to see the Dolphins do in the 2025 offseason. Other than that, we will see you guys next time.